Revenge with Karen.
You know that feeling when you walk into your own house and you just know someone's been there? Maybe the air smells different, or the hum of the refrigerator is half a decibel off. That was me and Rig 14. She wasn't a house, though. She was a 50-ton, rust-bitten, deep-pressure beast sitting in the middle of the Oklahoma panhandle, sucking prehistoric sludge out of the Earth's guts. And she was moody. It was 0300. The kind of dark that feels heavy, like a wet wool blanket draped over the plains. The graveyard shift crew was in the doghouse, drinking coffee that tasted like battery acid and regret. I was out on the catwalk, specifically near the secondary pressure manifold on the north face. The monitors in the command shack, high-tech garbage that cost more than my first 3 cars combined, were reading all green. Optimal flow, they said. Stable PSI, they lied. I didn't need a screen. I needed my boots. I could feel a vibration in the grating under my feet. It wasn't the rhythmic thump-hiss-thump of the main pumps. It was a stutter, a microscopic tremor, like a shiver running down a horse's flank before it bucks. I laid a hand on the cold steel of the intake pipe. It was vibrating at a frequency that shouldn't exist if the valves were seated correctly. "You're lying to me, 14, I whispered. I didn't smoke, never saw the point in paying to ruin my lungs when the fumes out here did it for free. But in moments like this, I understood the urge to light something on fire. I pulled my wrench. Not the shiny, ergonomic crap the new guys buy, but a 20-year-old piece of iron stained with the sweat of 1,000 shifts. I bypassed the sensor array, which was currently hallucinating that everything was fine, and manually cracked the check valve casing. Hiss. Not a big one, just a snake's breath. But it was there. A hairline fracture in the seal, leaking vaporized hydraulic fluid. If I'd left it another 6 hours, the morning pressure spike would have turned that hairline into a crater, and we'd be scrubbing hydraulic fluid off the jagged remains of the support struts. And probably scrubbing parts of the crew off the struts, too. I tightened the secondary lock, diverted the flow to the B-line, and felt the vibration smooth out. The rig settled. She stopped shivering. I patted the pipe. Good girl. Hey, look, before I get into how I dismantled a multi-million-dollar ego with nothing but silence, do me a small favor. If you're into stories about blue-collar revenge and corporate stupidity blowing up in real time, hit subscribe button. It helps the algorithm know you like watching Rome burn. Thanks. Now, back to the grease. I walked back into the command shack, wiping grease on a rag that was already 90% grease. Readings are green, June, the night super, Miller mumbled without looking up from his Sudoku. Miller was a good guy, but he trusted computers the way a toddler trusts a parent. Blindly. Sensor 4 is blind, I said, pouring myself a cup of the battery acid coffee. Had a microfracture on the manifold. I diverted to B-line. Need to order a new seal kit for the A-line before the morning shift starts. Miller finally looked up, blinking. The board didn't throw an alarm. The board is an idiot, I said flatly. The board doesn't feel the floor shake. This was the job. I'd been on Rig 14 for 21 years. I started when I was 24, green as summer grass, getting hazed by guys who thought a woman on a rig was bad luck. I outlasted them. I outlasted the guys who replaced them, outlasted 3 different ownership groups. I knew the pressure codes of this station better than I knew my own social security number. I had a calibration layer in the software, a custom set of offsets I'd programmed over a decade that compensated for the fact that Rig 14 was old. She drifted. She lied about her numbers. My code translated her lies into truth, so the automated safety systems didn't have a panic attack every 10 minutes. It was a delicate ecosystem, a balance of brute force and intuition. Then the phone rang, not the rig phone, my personal cell. It was the owner, Big Daddy Warbucks himself, a man who visited the site once a year to take a photo in a pristine hard hat and then left before the dust could settle on his Lexus. June, he said. His voice was too loud, too cheerful, the kind of cheer that usually precedes a severance package. Great news. Implementing that succession plan we talked about. My stomach dropped. We hadn't really talked about it. He had mentioned it, and I had ignored it because it was stupid. Succession? I asked, looking out the window at the sunrise bleeding red across the horizon. Yeah, my boy Connor. He just finished his master's in petroleum engineering. Top of his class. He's coming down today. I want you to show him the ropes. He's going to be taking over as site director. Site director? That was my job in everything but title and pay grade. Connor, I repeated. I remembered Connor. I'd seen his Instagram once. He was an influencer who posted videos of himself doing push-ups on yachts. Does Connor know the difference between a gate valve and a gloved hand? Ha, June, you're always a riot. He's got the degree, June. He understands the theory of extraction better than anyone. He's going to modernize the operation. Some new energy? Energy explodes out here, sir, I said, my voice dropping an octave. We don't want energy, we want boredom. Boredom means we're safe. Look, June, the cheerfulness evaporated, replaced by the steel of a man who signs checks. He lands at 0900. Train him or pack your shit. We need to move into the future. You've been great, but well, you're a bit analog in a digital world. I looked at the monitor, currently reading all green only because I had manually adjusted the flow 10 minutes ago. Analog. Right, understood, I said. I hung up. The sun was fully up now, illuminating the scars and rust spots on the rig. It looked tired. I felt tired. Trouble? Miller asked, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure in the room. The circus is coming to town, Miller, I said, tossing the rag into the bin, and they're bringing the head clown. I didn't know it yet. That sunrise was the last peaceful one Rig 14 would ever see. The digital world was coming, and it had no idea that the only thing keeping the analog world from blowing it to hell was a middle-aged woman and her secret code. The helicopter touched down at 0900 sharp, kicking up a tornado of red Oklahoma dust. It was a shiny new Bell 407, looking like a plastic toy against the gritty backdrop of the oil fields. Out stepped Big Daddy, looking like he always did, expensive suit, cowboy boots that had never touched manure. And then there was Connor. Lord, give me strength. Connor looked like he had walked out of a catalog for blue-collar cosplay. His coveralls were stiff and navy blue, creased from the packaging. His hard hat was so white it hurt to look at in the direct sun. He was wearing Oakleys and carrying a tablet in a ruggedized case that probably cost more than my truck. Walked with that swagger, that confident, hip-leading strut of a man who has never had to wonder if he's going to make rent. I stood on the landing pad, arms crossed, feeling the wind whip my hair. I didn't dress up. I was in my usual grease-stained gray coveralls, my name patch fraying at the edges. June, Big Daddy yelled over the rotor wash, clapping me on the shoulder. Meet the future. Connor lowered his sunglasses. He had soft eyes. Not kind eyes, soft. Kind of eyes that panicked when the Wi-Fi went down. Pleasure, June, Connor said, extending a hand. His grip was moist. Dad's told me you're quite the fixture here. Fixture, I repeated, like a light bulb or like a toilet. Connor chuckled, a hollow sound. Like a legend. But hey, legends belong in museums, right? We're here to optimize. We walked the site. The tour was less about me teaching him and more about him telling me why everything I did was inefficient. Is the pump speed set to 75%? He asked, tapping on his tablet. Specs say this model is rated for 95% continuous output. We're leaving money on the table, June. We run it at 75% because she's 20 years old, Connor, I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. You push her to 95%, the vibration harmonics will shatter the ceramic seals in the secondary loop. She rattles apart. He smirked. Actually smirked. That's a myth, June. Metal fatigue doesn't work like that if the maintenance schedule is adhered to. I've run the simulations. We can boost output by 20% by just uncapping the software limits. Simulations, I said. Did your simulation account for the fact that the bedrock here shifts when it rains? Did it account for the fact that valve 3 sticks when the ambient temp drops below 40? That's why we replaced the sensors. He dismissed me, waving a hand at the massive, groaning machinery around us. You're relying on gut feelings. That's cute, really. It's folk wisdom. But we do data-driven extraction now. The sensors tell the truth. The sensors tell you what they're told to tell you, I muttered. The breaking point came in the control room. The entire day shift was there. Guys I'd trained, guys I'd saved from injury, guys who bought me beers on birthdays. Connor stood at the main console, looking at my custom interface. What is this? Why is there a deviation script running on the main pressure logic? That's my calibration, I said, stepping forward. The sensors drift. The rig vibrates. That script filters out the noise so the BOP blowout preventer doesn't false trigger every time a truck drives by. Connor laughed. He turned to the crew, grinning. You see this, guys? This is what I'm talking about. Ghost code. Running a multi-million-dollar operation on unauthorized patches because June here thinks she knows better than the OEM. He turned to me, his face dropping the smile. It was cold now. Delete it. Excuse me? Delete the script, June. We're going back to factory standards. I want a clean slate. No more of your modifications. If the sensors are drifting, we calibrate them physically. We don't patch them with software duct tape. You delete that script, I said, my voice very quiet, and the system won't know how to interpret the pressure spikes. It'll think we're in a blowout condition when we aren't, or worse, it'll think we're safe when we're about to blow. I'm the site director, June, Connor said, puffing out his chest. And I'm telling you to pack your things. You're done. Early retirement. We'll mail you your check. The room went silent. Miller looked at his feet. The other guys shifted uncomfortably. They knew. They knew I was the glue. But they also knew who signed the checks. I looked at Connor. Then I looked at Big Daddy, who was busy checking his emails on his phone, avoiding eye contact. Okay, I said. I stepped up to the console. Whoa, what are you doing? Connor flinched. You want the script gone? I'm removing my intellectual property before I leave. I typed in my admin password. Access granted. I navigated to the calibration layer, host code that smoothed out the rough edges of a dying machine. Are you sure, Connor? I asked one last time. Once this is gone, she's raw. She's going to talk to you directly. And she screams. Just do it, he snapped. Stop being dramatic. I hit delete. System purged, reverting to factory defaults. The screens flickered. The smooth green lines suddenly became jagged, jumping up and down like the heartbeat of a meth addict. Yellow warnings popped up on 3 different sectors. See, Connor pointed. Look at that instability. Your code was masking all these errors. Now we can actually fix them. Good luck with that, I said. I took my hard hat off and set it on the console. It was scratched, dented, and covered in stickers from safety seminars and supply companies. It looked like an artifact. She's all yours, Connor, I said. Don't say I didn't warn you. I walked out. I didn't look back. I could hear Connor already barking orders, his voice high and thin, bouncing off the steel walls. He sounded like a chihuahua barking at a thunderstorm. The drive back to town was 2 hours of nothing, but straight highway and dead grass. My truck, a beat-up Ford F-150 with 300,000 miles on it, rattled in sympathy with my nerves. I kept gripping the steering wheel, waiting for the radio to crackle with a status update, but the radio was silent. I wasn't on the channel anymore. Felt like I had left a child in a burning building. No, that wasn't right. I had left a child with a babysitter who thought gasoline was Gatorade. I pulled into Dottie's diner on the edge of town. It was 11:30 a.m. I ordered eggs, over-easy, hash browns, and coffee. I sat in the corner booth, the vinyl cracked and taped with silver duct tape, a better repair job than Connor was likely doing right now. My phone sat on the table. Face up. Black screen. I resisted the urge to check the remote login app. I still had the credentials. I built the damn network, but logging in now would be trespassing. And besides, if I looked, I'd want to fix it. And I couldn't fix it, not this time. The waitress, Brenda, poured me a refill. You're back early, sugar. Usually don't see you till shift change on Thursday. Retired, Brenda, I said, stabbing a hash brown. Effective immediately. Get out, she laughed, cigarette smoke clinging to her apron. Retired? What are you going to do, knit? You'd probably try to knit with steel wool. Maybe I'll take up gardening, I said. Plants don't explode. Well, you look like you need a drink, not eggs, she said, moving on. I ate in silence. The silence of the town was oppressive. On the rig, there was always noise. The drone of the generators, the clank of pipe, the wind. Here, the only sound was the buzzing of a fly against the window and the low murmur of the TV news. I felt a ghost pain in my legs, the phantom vibration of the deck plates. My body was tuned to rig 14 frequency. Without it, I felt dizzy. My phone buzzed. I stared at it. It wasn't a call, it was a text. Alex Jr. Eng, hey June, it's weird here. Alex was a good kid, smart but timid. He knew the math, but he was scared of the machinery. Me, new boss settling in? Alex, he's changing everything. He upped the pump RPMs to 90%. Whole deck is shaking. Miller tried to tell him about the ceramic seals, but Connor fired him on the spot. Said he was obstructing progress. I closed my eyes. Miller fired. 25 years of experience gone because he dared to speak up. Me, keep your head down, Alex. Document everything. Alex, the pressure readings are jumping all over the place. The system keeps flagging sensor error. Connor says it's just the sensors recalibrating to the new efficiency protocols. Is that a thing? Me, no, that is not a thing. The sensors are screaming because the pressure is turbulent. Without the smoothing code, the valves are hunting. They're opening and closing too fast. I typed that out, then deleted it. I couldn't coach him. If I coached him and something went wrong, it was on me. If I coached him, Connor would say I was interfering. Me, just watch the physical gauges, Alex. Trust the needles, not the screens. If the needle hits red, you run. Wait for permission. I paid my bill and left. I went home to my empty house. It was neat, tidy, and cold. I had spent so much time on the rig that my actual home felt like a hotel I visited on weekends. I walked into my study and pulled out my old logbooks. Stacks of them, years of data. Handwritten notes on every quirk, every repair, every shim I jammed into a loose bracket. Just in case, I whispered to the empty room. I laid them out on the desk. I opened my laptop. I didn't log into the rig's control system, but I pulled up the public geological survey data for our sector. I looked at the substrate density. I looked at the extraction rates Connor was bragging about. He'd already posted a TikTok about record-breaking flow. I did some quick math on a napkin. If he kept the pumps at 90% without the vibration dampening, and if the check valve I found this morning wasn't replaced. I looked at the clock. It was 2:00 p.m., 36 hours, I said aloud. Give or take, the system wouldn't fail immediately. It would hold. It would groan. It would endure because American steel is stubborn. But physics is undefeated. The harmonic vibrations would liquefy the seals. The pressure would find that weak spot I patched. I went to the kitchen and made tea. I sat on my porch and watched the horizon. Somewhere out there, 50 miles away, a rich kid was revving the engine of a car with no brakes, convinced that going faster meant he was a better driver. And I was just sitting here, waiting for the crash. By nightfall, the text messages from Alex had turned from worried to frantic. Alex, 8:45 p.m. He's disabled the secondary alarm loop. The constant beeping was killing morale. I stared at the phone. Disabling the alarm loop was like taking the batteries out of your smoke detector because the toast burned. It didn't stop the fire. It just stopped you from knowing about it until your skin was melting. I sat at my kitchen table, my war room. I had the geological maps spread out. I had a diagram of the rig's piping architecture, something I'd drawn from memory years ago. Was marking potential failure points with a red Sharpie. If he kills the alarm, I muttered, tracing the line from the main pump to the separator, he won't see the back pressure building in the return line. Connor was operating under the assumption that the rig was a perfect digital model. In a computer simulation, if you increase flow, the pipes just carry more fluid. In reality, pipes have personality. They have erosion. They have sediment buildup that changes the fluid dynamics. 14 had arteriosclerosis. Her arteries were hardened. I knew that. My code knew that. Connor did not know that. I checked the public corporate dashboard. Big Daddy's company had a shareholder portal that showed live efficiency metrics. It was meant for investors to see how much money they were making. Right now, the graph was a steep green line climbing toward the heavens. Efficiency, 115% output, 12,000 barrels/day to an investor. It looked like a miracle. To me, it looked like a heart attack. You can sprint at 115% for a minute, maybe an hour, but eventually your heart explodes. Alex, 10:30 p.m., the floor is vibrating so bad my coffee mug walked itself off the table. Connor is in his office blasting music. He says it's the sound of money. Me, Alex, listen to me. Go to the lower deck. Check the bolts on the flange where the riser meets the platform. Touch them, just look. 10 minutes passed. Longest 10 minutes of my life. I paced the kitchen. I cleaned a spot on the counter that was already clean. Alex, 10:42 p.m., they're shiny, like there's fresh metal showing around the heads, and there's a little pile of rust dust underneath them. My blood ran cold. The bolts were backing out. The vibration was unscrewing the rig from the ocean floor, inch by inch. Me, get out of there, Alex. Tell the crew to take a smoke break. A long one, by the lifeboats. Alex, I can't. He's watching the cameras. If we stop, he'll dock our pay. He already threatened the roughnecks. Connor wasn't just incompetent, he was tyrannical. He was using fear to suppress the very warning signs that could save his life. It's a classic dictator move. Shoot the messenger, and eventually you stop getting bad news. You also stop getting news about the barbarian horde at the gates. I opened my laptop again. I hesitated. I could remote in. I could override his lockout. I could shut the pumps down from my kitchen. But if I did, what would happen? Connor would see the shutdown. He'd blame me for hacking and sabotage. He'd restart them. He wouldn't learn. He'd just fire Alex and anyone else he suspected of helping me. And the rig would still blow, only now I'd be in handcuffs for cyber terrorism. I had to let the numbers play out. I couldn't let them die. Legacy drift, I whispered. That was the term we used for when the equipment drifted away from its original specs. But we were experiencing leadership drift. We had drifted so far from sanity that we were in international waters of stupidity. I poured a glass of whiskey. I didn't drink often, but the air pressure in my kitchen felt too high. I looked at the timeline I'd drawn. Initial vibration started 12 hours ago. Loosening confirmed. Seal failure imminent. If the flange bolts were loose, the high-pressure gas seal would be the next to go. Once that seal breached, gas would vent onto the deck. One spark. One hot exhaust pipe. One staticky nylon jacket. Boom. I took a sip of whiskey. It burned, but not as much as the rage in my chest. "You idiot," I hissed at the empty room. "You arrogant, soft-handed, filter-faced little idiot." I wasn't sleeping tonight. I put my boots on, not my slippers, my steel-toed work boots. I didn't know why. It just felt wrong to be barefoot while my rig was dying. The next morning, the sun rose on a lie. I was scrolling through my phone, eyes gritty from lack of sleep, when the notification popped up. It was a post from the official company LinkedIn page. Innovation in action. Our new site director, Connor H., has increased production on Rig 14 by 22% in just 24 hours, proving that fresh perspectives and digital-first leadership are the keys to the future of energy. #disruption #oil and gas #leadership attached was a photo of Connor. He was standing on the drill floor, arms crossed, biceps flexing, probably pumped up beforehand, looking sternly at a horizon he didn't understand. Behind him, blurry but visible to a trained eye, was a steam vent that was venting way too much white smoke. "Fresh perspectives," I scoffed, throwing the phone onto the couch, fresh like a gaping wound. The comments section was full of corporate sycophants. "Great job, Connor. This is what the industry needs, crushing it." None of them saw the smoke. None of them knew that the 22% increase was actually the rig bleeding out. Around noon, my phone rang. It wasn't a text this time, it was Alex. His voice was a whisper. "June, it's bad. Where are you?" I asked, instantly alert. "Server room. It's the only place quiet enough to hear." He's running a contest, June." "A what?" "A contest. Whichever shift drills the most footage gets a bonus. He's pitting the crews against each other. They're bypassing safety checks to speed up the pipe connections. I saw a guy override the torque limiter just to save 30 seconds. My stomach turned. Speed kills. In this industry, speed creates friction, friction creates heat, and heat creates fire. "And the rig?" I asked. "How is she?" "She's groaning." Loudly. "The pipes are singing, June, that high-pitched whine, it's constant now. And the mud return is hot, like physically hot, it's coming up steaming." Hot mud meant the bit was grinding against something hard or the friction downhole was critical, or worse, gas was entering the mud stream, expanding and heating up the mix. "Alex," I said, my voice ice cold. "Listen to me very carefully. Go to the manifold deck. Look at line 3B. That's the bypass I installed 5 years ago. It has a manual temperature gauge, an old analog dial. Connor probably doesn't even know it's there because it's not networked." "Okay, line 3B. What am I looking for? If that needle is past 250 degrees, don't call me back. Don't go tell Connor. Just get your bag, go to the muster station, and wait by the lifeboat. Tell the guys you trust to do the same. But if it's past 250, the gaskets are already melting, Alex. It's not if anymore, it's a when." "Okay, I'm going." The line went dead. I stood up and walked to the window. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue, a perfect day for a disaster. I felt a strange sense of detachment. I had done everything I could. I had warned the owner. I had warned the sun. I had warned the crew. I was Cassandra's in coveralls, screaming into the void while the Trojans wheeled the wooden horse inside and started a tick-tock challenge around it. I grabbed my keys. I couldn't sit in the house anymore. I drove out of town, heading north. Not to the rig, I couldn't get past the gate anyway, but to a bluff about 2 miles away. It was a spot teenagers went to drink beer and hook up, but in the daylight, it offered a clear line of sight to Rig 14. I parked the truck and got out, had a pair of high-powered binoculars in the glove box. I raised them to my eyes. There she was, Rig 14. From this distance, she looked peaceful, a steel island in a sea of dirt, but through the lenses I could see the heat shimmer. The exhaust stacks were belching thick, dark smoke running rich. The crane was moving jerkily, and then I saw it. A tiny plume of steam venting from the north side. Right where the flange bolts were. It wasn't steam. It was gas. High-pressure gas escaping through a microscopic gap, freezing the air around it instantly. "There it is," I whispered. "The kiss of death." I lowered the binoculars. I didn't need to see anymore, I just needed to wait. Time moves differently when you're waiting for an explosion. It stretches, warps, and snaps back like a rubber band. I sat on the tailgate of my truck, a thermos of coffee beside me, watching the sun begin to dip. The sky turned purple, then bruised black. The rig lit up. Christmas tree of floodlights against the void. 6:40 p.m. A distinct pop echoed across the plains. It sounded like a gunshot, but I knew what it was. Valve 9 had just jammed. It was a pressure relief valve. When it jams, the pressure has nowhere to go but back down the throat of the beast. I checked my phone. No text from Alex. That was good. It meant he was either busy running or he was already at the muster station. 7:15 p.m. Secondary alarm triggered. I could see the strobe lights flashing on the derrick. Blue strobes, that meant gas detected. Through the binoculars, I saw movement. Tiny figures in blue coveralls running. Not the organized trot of a drill, this was the frantic scramble of panic. Then, the lights stopped flashing. He silenced it, I said, gripping the binoculars until my knuckles turned white. You son of a bitch. You turned off the gas alarm. Connor must have assumed it was another sensor glitch. He was probably screaming at them to get back to work, to stop being pusses, to think about the bonus. He was blinding himself to the fire so he wouldn't have to see the smoke. 9:30 p.m. My phone rang. It was Alex. June. He was shouting over a roar that sounded like a jet engine taking off inside a phone booth. The needle, it's buried, it's past 300. The pipe is glowing red. Where are you? I yelled back. Lifeboat station. Me and the night crew. Connor, he's still in the command shack. He's trying to override the shutoff. He thinks the computer is locking him out. He's not locked out. The system is trying to save his life. He's screaming at us to get back on the floor. He's saying he'll fire everyone. June, the deck is shaking so bad I can't stand up. Stay in the boat, Alex. Do not get out of that boat. I hung up. I looked at the rig. The roar was audible now, even from 2 miles away. A low, guttural moan that vibrated in my chest. It was the sound of millions of pounds of pressure looking for an exit. The lights on the rig flickered. The generators were struggling to maintain the load as the pumps fought against the back pressure. I imagined Connor in that command shack, the master of engineering, the tick-tock star. He would be staring at screens that were no longer green. They would be a wall of red. Critical error. Pressure limit exceeded. Seismic vibration detected. For the first time in his life, his charm wouldn't work. You can't gaslight a gas leak. You can't negotiate with physics. He was alone in a room with a monster he had poked awake, and he had no idea how to sing it back to sleep. I took a deep breath of the cool night air. Come on, Connor, I whispered. Call me. You know you want to. Swallow that ego before it swallows you. I waited. The rig groaned. And then my phone rang. Caller ID, Rig 14 command. Let it ring twice. Not out of cruelty, but to compose myself. I needed to be the voice of God, not the voice of an ex-employee. I slid the bar to answer. Hello, June? Oh God, June. Connor sounded like a child. The bravado, the buzzwords, the arrogance, it was all gone, stripped away by the sound of twisting metal in the background. He was sobbing. High-pitched, hyperventilating gasps. Calm down, Connor, I said. My voice was steady, low, flat line against his chaos. Talk to me. What do you see? It's all red. Everything is red. The alarms won't stop. The floor buckled, June. I heard a bang and the floor just popped up. I tried to engage the emergency shutoff, but it's not responding. Why isn't it responding? Because you deleted the calibration layer, Connor, I said. The system thinks the sensors are lying, so it's ignoring your input. It thinks you are the glitch. Fix it, please. Put the code back. I'll give you anything, double your salary, triple it. Just make it stop. I looked at the rig through the windshield. A jet of fire had just erupted from the flare stack, way too big. It was spitting burning crude into the night sky. I can't fix it, Connor. That code takes hours to compile. You have minutes. No, don't say that. There has to be a bypass. You said you knew the codes. You told my dad only you knew the codes. I do, I said. But codes are for computers. You're past computers now. You're in mechanical failure. What do I do? Oh God, I don't want to die. June, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Hearing him beg was satisfying in a dark, twisted way. It shouldn't have been. I should be a better person. But hearing the man who called me analog and obsolete crying for his mommy, while my obsolete knowledge was the only thing standing between him and a closed casket, well, felt like justice. Connor, listen to me, I commanded. Stop typing. Step away from the console, but step away. Okay, I'm away. Is the pressure gauge on the main line pinned? Yes, it broke the glass. It's stuck at max. Okay. The blowout preventer, the BOP. It's your last line of defense. The shear rams. Do you know where the manual activation lever is? The what, of course, he didn't. He knew the digital icon. He didn't know the physical lever. Under the desk. I said, there's a red panel. Kick it open. I heard a thud, then a scramble. Okay, I see it. It's a big yellow handle. That's the shear ram. If you pull that, gigantic steel blades will cut through the drill pipe and seal the well. It will destroy the drill string. It will cost the company about $5 million in equipment damage instantly. And it will permanently cripple the well. I don't care about the money. I just want to get out. Then pull it, I said. With both hands, brace your feet, and yank it like you're trying to rip it out of the floor. And then you run, Connor. You don't look back. You run to the helipad. Is the pilot there? Yes, he's spinning up. Good, pull the lever. And Connor, what? He whimpered, pack up. My son runs the rig now? No. No one runs it. You killed it. I pull it. I screamed. I heard a grunt, a metallic screech, and then a sound that was felt more than heard, a massive, earth-shaking thud that echoed through the phone. The shear ram slamming shut. The guillotine dropping. It stopped. The noise changed. That's the pressure being capped. It won't hold forever. The seal is damaged. Run. The line went dead. I dropped the phone on the seat and raised the binoculars again. On the rig, the change was instant. The deafening roar of the runaway pumps was replaced by a sharp, violent hissing. The shear rams had cut the pipe, severing the connection to the reservoir. The pressure that was already in the system had nowhere to go. Pipes burst. It was like watching a vascular system rupture. Along the derrick, high-pressure lines blew out, spraying drilling mud and hydraulic fluid everywhere. It looked like the rig was bleeding black blood. I saw a tiny figure sprint from the command shack toward the helipad. Connor. He was running so fast he tripped, scrambled on all fours, and kept going. Helicopter lifted off just as a secondary explosion blew out the windows of the command shack he had just vacated. Not a fire explosion, a pressure explosion. The air compressed so hard it shattered the safety glass. If he had stayed to save the data, he would have been shredded. I watched the helicopter bank hard away from the rig, heading south, away from me. The rig itself was a wreck. The derrick was leaning. The floor had buckled. Blowout preventer had held the main surge, preventing a total environmental catastrophe. But the machine itself was dead. Twisted metal, spewing steam and mud. The silence returned slowly. The roar faded to a hiss, then a gurgle. I sat on the tailgate, shaking, adrenaline crash. My hands were trembling so hard I couldn't screw the cap back on my thermos. I had just orchestrated the destruction of a $50 million asset. Well, Connor destroyed it. Just told him how to execute the kill shot. My phone pinged. Alex, we're in the boats. We launched. We're safe. We saw the chopper leave. Did he make it? Me, he made it. Alex, the rig is trashed. June, it's gone. Me, better the rig than you, kid. Sit tight. Coast Guard is probably already on the way. I looked at Rig 14 one last time. She looked sad, broken, like a horse that had been ridden to death by a drunk jockey. I'm sorry, girl, I whispered. Deserved better. I got in my truck and drove home. I didn't speed. There was no rush anymore. The pressure was gone. 3 weeks later, the dust had settled, literally and legally. Rig 14 was a write-off. The structural damage from the vibration and the pressure blowout was too severe to repair. They capped the well and towed the carcass of the platform away for scrap. The investigation was brief. Corporate lawyers descended like vultures. They wanted to blame someone. Looked at the logs. They saw the deletion of the calibration layer. They saw the override commands. They saw the safety systems silenced, all logged under Connor's admin ID. Big Daddy tried to spin it. He tried to say it was a systems failure. But the insurance company hired an independent auditor, me. I walked into the boardroom wearing a blazer, not coveralls. Big Daddy wouldn't look at me. Connor wasn't there. Rumor was he was taking a sabbatical in Bali to find himself. Or maybe just to hide from the shareholders. I laid out the facts. I didn't gloat. I didn't scream. I just pointed to the data. The removal of the legacy drift compensation code caused the sensors to misinterpret flow rates, I explained, clicking through the slides. This led to operator error in increasing pump speed beyond rated capacity. The mechanical failure was inevitable. Could it have been prevented? Insurance rep asked. Yes, I said, by listening to the machine and the people who know how to speak its language. The insurance company denied the claim for gross negligence. Big Daddy's stock took a nosedive. Connor was quietly removed from the company directory. As for me, I didn't ask for my job back. I didn't want it. You can't unring a bell and you can't unbreak trust. Instead, I started my own consultancy. McAllister Pressure Systems. Charge 3 times my old hourly rate. Companies fly me out to their aging rigs to audit their legacy drift. Basically, they pay me to tell them if their nepotism hires are about to blow up their investment. I walked onto a new site yesterday. Rig 22, up in North Dakota. Cold as hell. The site director was a young guy, nervous. He saw me walking the catwalk, running my hand along the intake pipe. "Everything okay, Miss McAllister?" he asked, fidgeting. Closed my eyes. I felt the vibration through my boots. A steady, rhythmic thump his thump. No stutters, no shivers. "She's humming," I said, opening my eyes. "But your secondary valve on the beeline is a little sticky. You might want to grease that before winter hits." He stared at me, then at the pipe. How did you know that? "The sensors say it's fine." I smiled, a real smile this time. "The sensors are just numbers, kid," I said, tapping the side of my head. "The rig talks. Just have to shut up long enough to listen." I walked away, leaving him staring at the pipe. I still drink my coffee black. I still don't smoke. And I still prefer the company of machines to people. Machines might kill you, but at least they have the decency to warn you first. And Connor, I heard he's selling crypto courses on Twitter now. Some things never change.